So, polyphonic music, and particularly English chamber music from the 16th and 17th century, which I'm crazy about and I will spend all day talking about and think it's amazing, and it's like ridiculous that we don't look at it more in a general sense in music education. Anyway, this type of music is a music that happens moment to moment. Unlike a lot of music that came later, this is something that is a flow of energy, and you have to ride that flow of energy and pay attention to what happens in order to get the most out of it. Now, can you think of a music this reminds you of? Well, I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Jazz. Early jazz. The way you listen to jazz and polyphonic music, I would argue, is really similar. And that's one of the things that I think subconsciously got me into it. It's an intense music, and listening to it, to every moment of it, and feeling every moment of a piece and feeling them individually is a really intense experience. And it has a lot of the same feeling to me as listening to an improvisation. You never know what's going to come. It's in the details. And I think jazz functions much the same way. So it's funny to me when people talk about how it just sounds like wallpaper, or it, because I feel like they're listening to it, they're trying to listen to it in large blocks, like classical music. And that's just not. You have to get into it. You have to get into the details and pay attention for it to really grab you. Just like when people who never listen to jazz put jazz on, they're just like, what? So anyway, a good 16th century composer can move you through heaven and hell in the course of just 5 minutes. A 3-minute fantasia can have the same amount of information that an hour-long symphony has, just condensed. We're used to thinking of things in classical music and in music pedagogy as blocks of development, blocks of harmony, blocks of material that are then combined with smaller blocks and then make this large structure. Let me put it this way. When you hear a Mozart piano concerto or a Bartók piano concerto, you're hearing big blocks of material that are next to each other, structured in such a way that when placed together, they convey a broad sweep of time. Even if the movement is 10 minutes, it artificially resembles a greater length of time, a greater length of plot. So when the listener feels the immensity of the listener feels the immensity of the time conveyed. And this is kind of the remnant, and not the remnant, the victory of Italian opera and drama in music, which was so addictive, and it turned music into something that resembled a literary form. Sonata form is something that is literary in nature, in that it turns music into, which by itself is just sound, into structured story, where the big payoff of drama is delayed and circumvented, and then the cumulative effect is tremendously satisfying to our sense of drama and design and all that stuff. And proportion. So bits of material are given different amounts of importance to shade the drama. After the statement of the theme, there's a short transition, less important, and then the development. So it's a way to artificially elongate time so that 4 minutes can bring the weight of 4 hours. So throw that all out. When you're going into 16th century music, forget that. It's not about that. With English chamber music that I'm just obsessed with, and I think is amazing, just throw it out. 3 minutes of music is 3 minutes of sound, and every second of that have to be lived. And if you fall off the train, you fall off. That's it. And you can get back on, but every second counts. So I have some advice for people who just feel that it's an austere music. It's not. Listen. Be in the moment. So, I wanted to give this preface because the things I'm going to talk about today will probably seem crazy detailed and a little bit insane to some of you. But in a 3-minute piece of music, how the first 10 seconds go, how they're structured in that first 10 seconds, instead of structured over 20 minutes, how those first 10 seconds are structured are crucial to getting the listener's attention. And that little miniaturized drama of 10 seconds is extremely important. And almost everything we hear will be vowel only. So it's a homogeneous sound. There's nothing to save you. There's nothing to help you. It's just notes. It's pure sound. And we're going to look at only openings to help with this, to get a sense of this. We're going to look at openings from a very particular form, which is the In Nomine. In Nomine is an English form of music that was derived from a section in a John Taverner Mass, where the words In Nomine Domini are said over and over, and the alto holds this plain chant melody, which is very beautiful, and I'll show it to you right now. So this is the melody more or less. Sometimes they go back down. It kind of gets flexible up here. And then there's some form of a descent. But it basically goes back down, dips down to the note below the tonic, you would say, and then rises back up. But we're just going to look at how these opening notes go. So what happens in Nomine is this plain chant melody is held in like whole notes or double whole notes, and voices do all manner of different things around it. And there's a huge amount. I just love how it's such it's just, I don't even want to describe it as a good melody. It just, there's something that's so, to me, spiritual about the absolutely rigorous amount of craft and conservatism that it demands to fundamentally to like make counterpoint around a single note. And it's just, how do I put it? Like, anyway, I think it's really cool. And I think it's really interesting how composers have dealt with this like very strict plain chant melody. And this, anyway, to finish what I was saying, this section in Taverner Mass was like then seized upon by many English composers who made something that was eventually made pieces in a genre that was eventually called the In Nomine. And the last In Nomines ever written, which used the plain chant melody and then did a bunch of stuff around it. Because apparently, they all loved this piece so much. It's a really nice piece. So I'm going to show you the original Taverner thing it's from, or the beginning of it. The last In Nomine ever written was Purcell, which is no surprise if you know Purcell's work. He was absolutely obsessed with his English forebears and took a lot of pride in his mastery of polyphony. So we're going to listen to the beginning of his one of his In Nomine as well. He wrote two that we know of. So let's take a look at how composers have done this, have opened In Nomines. A bunch of different types of composers are on this list. We've got great composers, and we've got lesser composers, what are usually considered lesser. But whatever, those words don't really mean anything in this context. Let's just listen to them, because it's good to get a wide swath. You'll only understand the greatness of great composers when you listen to the composers that weren't great at the time period. And a lot of times they have really amazing moments, but they're just not as consistent. But anyway, that's another thing. So let's get going here. And I'm going to finish up. It's worth telling you, I'm going to finish up. Sorry. Boop. I'm going to finish up with this by showing you the opening of my own In Nomine, or one of them. And it's untold. We don't know how many he wrote by himself in the dark. Anyway, so let's just give this a moment. And I want you to listen to where the plain chant comes in, how it comes in, and let's just discuss some of these. I have some of these. So this is the melody. You've seen it, right? I have some of these in score form, not all of them. I got them on IMSLP, by the way. It's a great website. I encourage you to sign up for a membership, which is like $22 a year, and it's really worth it. You also get to stream the Naxos music library. No, I'm not getting sponsored by IMSLP. I wish I was. All right, here we go. So this is the original In Nomine. The original In Nomine by John Taverner. Sorry. Okay, so in this, I'm not going to say too much, but just take a listen. So there's this fluid line that happens while this thing is held. This is like the kind of This is the tonic. I'm saying this because in some In Nomines, the plain chant takes place a fifth above the tonic, like one I'm going to show you. So anyway, that's your bass. That's your bass. And anyway, let's go on. So one more time, that opening. So that's pretty beautiful. Let's go to, I love this opening so much. It's really simple. So here's one where the plain chant is in the fifth. This is by Tallis, Thomas Tallis. So that's that. It's the same idea. We've got this very fluid, like linear type line. He actually does something really cool later in the piece, which I'll just show you, which I think is really nice. It's at this part of the In Nomine that is sometimes held for a long time. We're here. So it's here, right where my mouse is. Check this out. This is a really nice canon. Right, so there's another one. That's very similar in tone to the Taverner. I shouldn't say tone, in technique. All right, let's do another one. So I really like this one. I couldn't find it in score format, but check this out. This is by John Jenkins, who was a composer that lingered on for quite a while in the 1600s, writing very, very conservative, but very beautiful and very gentle fantasias and polyphonic music in the comfort of an aristocrat's home, the aristocrat whose son eventually became like the kind of unofficial biographer of John Jenkins. But he was certainly a very good craftsman, and just check out this opening. It's wonderful. And I want you to notice where the plain chant comes in. Opens with these soft, like, kind of chords, and there's a bass suspension. Let's listen to that. Right here. And then here's where it comes in. Now, why I absolutely love this is two things. The four voices around it have a pulse, da, 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 dee, that rhythmic flow. And he draws attention to the plain chant because he gives it a second before it comes in, and all the notes converge when it changes notes to the F. I'm not actually sure what key it's in, but yeah, I think it is. So when the plain chant goes to the F, they all frame, and before then they've been disconnected. This D is held while these notes descend, and then on the F, it's like there's this And it's a wonderfully framed experience. And the chromatic stuff that happens. And here's where it goes to the C. Wonderful. Okay, let's go into another one. We're just going to take a tour of all these. I love this opening. This is a Gibbons opening, and it's typical of Gibbons in that it's like seems so simple and guileless, but it just has something special about it. It just conveys something to me. So check this out. Again, I couldn't find this on score, but listen to the very opening of this one. It's awesome. So I just love that opening. Now, note one thing. It would be all thirds and sixths, which would be too much consonants probably in a row in their minds. So he has a fifth in there, and yet it's all just the notes of the first three notes of the plainchant, which is really nice. There's kind of a meta thing going on, and you'll see that again in Purcell. So simple. Anyway, that's not my favorite of his In Nomine. He has a really fucking good one. But I think it's for 5 voices. It is for 5 voices. Okay, so that's another thing you can do. These are just ideas. So let's go to this Christopher Tye one. Christopher Tye, I would rank as not an amazing composer, but he was well respected. He had a high up position in English musical life, and he certainly, I mean, there's no doubt he's like musically inclined. He's not just a tinkerer. Okay, let's listen to the beginning of this, though. It's kind of cool because, and check out the time signature on this bad boy. And it's no accident because it's consistent. This is... immediately it sets you forth on something that has a lot of forward momentum, and he also has these kind of it's less modal. It's less modal, or I shouldn't say it's less modal. What is it? It has these sharps in it, which they add something. Let's try that opening one more time. So he calls this In Nomine trust, which is interesting. I guess we can read into these notes, which usually don't speak very much, into something else. So you can listen to that if you want more. I think it's kind of neat. It's in 5/4. I didn't pick there's a John Bull In Nomine in 11/4, which Stephen Long actually showed me. Thanks, Stephen. Which is cool, but I don't have that here. So this is like there's pretty typical canonic entries. Unison, down a fifth. And yeah, so that's that. There's a lot of like it's pointed. It's pointed toward harmonic shifts. It's not a moody type of opening. It's something that is going, and what's really nice now that I'm thinking about is that this linear direction of the lines, how they point to the sharp notes. It feels very, very directed, like you're getting there. just noticed that he plays this C as C natural, which I kind of like better. That's why it sounds a little cooler on that. I've heard different versions who do different things with that. Anyway, let's go on. My favorite, the big boy, Henry Purcell, made a wonderful effort in this form. And let's just check out the opening because it is fire. So here's another thing you can do. Let's listen to a little more of that. But here's another thing you can do. You can make the plainchant in the outer voices and make it in canon. And that's what Purcell's done. And guess what? Has the plainchant entered yet? No. These are the outer voices. He delays the plainchant. Notice how he completely frames that. He waits for so long for the soprano voice to come in, and when it does it exactly. He keeps all the voices with their own rhythmic identity, which is really, really great counterpoint. So that is an incredible piece. I encourage you to listen to it. Let's keep going. Here's a Robert White opening. We'll just listen to it really quickly. Check it out. This is reminiscent of Gibbons. It's also similar to Taverner. It has this descending thing to this B flat, which sounds really, really, really cool. I'm not sure how great of a piece that is. Anyway, that's just another one. Let's do this Robert Parsons one. Here's an example of a little bit of English sourness. So that happened. So yeah, we're holding this F, and there goes an F sharp. Obviously conscious. He does that same sound again later. Where is it? I can't see all of this. It's somewhere around here. Yeah, like here's a C sharp, and then a C immediately after. Anyway, so that's another thing. He does this like quarter note marching thing. You notice a lot of these are in canon. This plainchant, he kind of like fudges a little bit because he uses a C sharp, which sort of diminishes it cheapens the mode of the thing. But I mean, obviously he could have written this with a C natural. It's not like he has any lack of ability. Okay, just a couple more here. Actually, there's two more. This guy's and then mine, and we'll be done here. Okay, so this is just I couldn't find a score for this. This is a John Bull In Nomine. John Bull's an amazing keyboard composer, and this is not the 1141, and it's also played with different instruments. You'll hear this record; it's very cool. Let me find it. Let's try it. Ready? this continuous type of churning movement while the thing is sustained. It comes in right away. I think that's really nice. I like how the middle voice lets the lower voice. I'll show you. Together. Hear how the clarinet just goes into quarter notes while the bass keeps going. So he breaks up the togetherness there. Isn't that beautiful? So these are all different openings. They are all, I should say, obviously these are all similar. You're using a plainchant. They're in totally within the graphic, with the exception of Purcell. Purcell, you know, he busts this whole tradition open. He blows it through the roof. The question is, nobody was there to see it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. That was just some different openings that these people have done. I don't know. Something pretty cool. And now I'll show you my own. So what do? I go a pretty standard route. Let's check it out. What? Let me I'll show you. You've stuck with me this far, right? Oh, it's cool. And I should also add that, you know, the middle and ends of those pieces aren't bad either. All right, we're mere moments away from hearing Logan Strosahl's In Nomine. How do you feel right now? What's the feeling in the room over there, Jan? All right. And here we go. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Okay. So check it out again. You can actually hear that on my Patreon page. So this has been a 30-minute video. I hope you guys got something out of it and enjoyed that. And I'm not going to dissect every little thing, but you can go and listen to them and see how they entered the voices in and see what they did. So anyway, that'll do it for today. I hope you guys dug it. I'll be back soon. See ya.